What you are about to witness in real time is a man at odds with himself. Is he going insane or peering through the veil of something indescribable? What would truly be the difference? Over the next hour, give or take, you may experience the same such phenomenon. Join us and bear witness to Neighbors.
Testing.
Test week.
What was that? Who was that with? It was for fucking Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
An old man makeup that was like the most unconvincing thing ever.
It was an American Christmas Carol. It
was
so American.
What's worse, like an old man pretending to be young, like in The Irishman, with like effects, or a young man pretending to be old with shitty prosthetics?
What about an old man pretending to be old like Picard? He's like, I can barely speak, but I'm the action hero leader.
That's pretty good.
My name is Picard. I'm barely alive.
I took a rocket to the face and lived in the first episode.
I was blown back 100 meters.
Yeah.
And landed on my ass. But I was okay.
But the android blew up. Like, what? And that's not what made him get an android body.
God damn
it. Cool. Booking deals. Fuck off.
The sale of the year. How can you dismiss that?
Sorry. I was going to go to Coliseum and got torn apart by Christians and lions.
Christians. Because that's what happened.
Christian! Actually, the Christians got torn apart, right? Not
they tore lions apart.
They were like, you tore him!
They were like,
the Christians are just like, just bring it.
They're like,
they're getting crucified. They're just like, jabroni. It's like, what?
yeah, papa.
Yeah. You're not responsible for the first crucifixion at Nazareth.
The Christians were eating the raw pink meat.
It's like, okay. So yeah, what is this? This is like episode
Buddy Week.
Who gives a shit?
I know, like
at this point.
Limp Noodle Week. I may have messed up.
No, not that. I guess I'm saying I can't remember what.
Oh, what number it is?
Yeah, 97, 98.
It's like we're approaching 100, but who cares?
That's I shouldn't have said
Milestone.
that was mean. 96.
Milestone week.
96 week. 96.9 from high atop Frog Mountain. WBN. Frog Mountain. Frogs don't live on mountains, dumbass. The name is Dumas. Like you said, Buddy Week. That was an apropos title because we've got Bosom Buddies and Neighbors that you picked. A more recluse number of picks. I don't think they were hiding under rocks and ledges.
Yeah, like they were deep cuts.
Yeah.
Were they worth it?
Which we will dive into. Do you have any? I guess do we want to really talk about anything before we get into?
I'm interested to get into it.
Okay, Bosom Buddies then. Fucking yeah. So Tom Hanks is in this, and that's pretty much what it's known for, as far as like
basically
actors.
His breakout role.
Because it's like there's like Peter Scolari. I don't know who that is, and then it was created by a bunch of other people. And
He's one of the Scolari brothers that keeps beating Mario and Luigi to the
Scapelli brothers. I put them to fucking jail in hell. I was shocked to learn this was like 2 seasons.
I mean, it's people remember it. Mainly.
Not that I think that like it was horrible, but
you're surprised something this stupid and could last for 2
There's
seasons.
things that we've seen on here that I was like, in the right environment, this could have thrived. Like if it came out now on Adult Swim, like Puchinsky would have been like their #1 show.
Right.
But back in the day, I don't know what the fuck somebody was smoking with that. This is just kind of there.
Yeah, exactly. I picked this because I think everyone loves Tom Hanks, right?
Yeah.
But I've always been interested to see his early stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So between this and I recently watched Mazes and Monsters, and I was disappointed by both.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, true. I guess we could get into what this show's even about.
Basically, this is the show where two
Yeah.
buddies have to dress like
women,
or pretend to be women so that they can stay in a
women's only apartment.
And hilarious hijinks
which they
ensues.
call a hotel. It's essentially when did this come out? The 80s or something? This is essentially a remake of Three's Company, except for instead of a woman, it's or instead of someone pretending to be gay, it's people pretending to be women.
Yeah.
To get a living arrangement.
Mm-hmm. And right away, they get into the obvious sitcom rhythms. It's such a
they kind of
writing.
load in the entire first episode, and it's I can't really see how this show went for multiple seasons.
I know. To be honest, I couldn't even get through this. I made it about 15 minutes in, and I was I've seen enough.
I mean,
I get it.
Some of these I'm doing something else while I'm watching it, so
it was pretty rough. And I also for whatever reason, I was thinking about Perfect Strangers, which was another sitcom from kind of a few years later. But that show, yes, it's very sitcom-y, but it also has heart, and Balky is a very lovable character. Yeah. These guys are a-holes, man. They're just annoying.
Yeah.
The
guy that they kind of is the main guy isn't even Tom Hanks. It's they're both, I guess, together in this, but the guy that gets the most kind of talking is him at the beginning. It's this other dude, and it's his character is kind of
it seems like their objective is to be as annoying as possible.
Yeah, his whole thing is he doesn't want to do shit. He doesn't want to do this and dress up as a woman until he finds out that he can maybe have sex with women, but I don't know how that would work. It's by the way, I'm a dude. It's okay.
They didn't think through their plan.
Yeah. But yeah, there's multiple things going on in this episode that I don't really understand why it needed to be that way.
Yeah, one thing is what did you think of the opening credits? It went on for 15 minutes. Yeah. It was so long.
And then they replayed it at the end they were happy that they did it. It was an accomplishment. It's this is not Police Story where they show the stunt at the end 100 times. It's I was going to write down a bunch of stupid shit, but I just gave up after serving a waitress.
Yeah, there you go.
They serve a waitress, and it's this whole show is just, it's things happen, but it's they're connected kind of, but things just kind of happen in the intro for sure. It's they are at a restaurant and a lady comes over, and instead of her giving them food, they make her sit down and serve her. It's that wouldn't work. She'd be she'd get up and she's got a job to do, and then they put money in a meter and put down lawn chairs to tan, and I'm why didn't you just do that in the grass for free? It was every scene was it
was pretty fun.
It was a showcase of the absurd. I was
I think it's funny that from the beginning of time until maybe 20 years ago, a man dressing as a woman was comedy gold.
Yeah.
For years and years, that was the funniest thing anyone could ever imagine.
And then I watched this and I'm I don't really understand what's funny about this. You know what I mean? Mrs. Doubtfire was funny, but not. It was funny because he dressed as not just a woman, but as a grandma, so he completely changed his personality and leaned into it, and it was more so you forgot that Robin Williams was a man and that he became a woman, and he ended up the funny stuff came from oh, there's this old lady cussing, or she does this horrible shit, behind people's backs and stuff, and it's an awesome movie from what I remember. I remember really liking it and stuff because Robin Williams was so good in it. But this is just the comedy comes from them being essentially they're planning to rape people in this show.
If you boil it down.
It's I don't know. It's just Like you said,
almost like I don't know what else to say about it. It's almost better to like leave it and move on. You know, it's like it's interesting to see.
It's
as
like
a footnote
watching
in Tom Hanks' career, but like
it's like watching some dude walk into your driveway, take a shit, and like walk away. It's like, what more can you say?
Yeah.
Like, it just happened, and if you're there to see it, it's like, wow. But other than that, it's like, how much more can you go on about it? I will have to say, like, whenever he talked, it's like, you can definitely tell he's the only person I care to even listen to say anything in this, but like, yeah.
I guess Peter Scolari is best known for Newhart. I guess he was on that, and apparently he passed away last year.
Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah.
Don't have to make more shitty shows like this.
What's your favorite Tom Hanks movie, if you had to pick?
I don't know, man. He does like a lot of movies now that are like all like heartwarming at the end. It's like, you know, I think he was doing that thing where he played Walt Disney or something at one point, and then he also did a movie where he played like Mr. Rogers, and I haven't seen either one of those. But I'm trying to think. I mean, I think like he got a huge kick, obviously, out of Forrest Gump and like Castaway, and he's done he's like the anti-Tom Cruise. Like, he never does real action stuff. Like, he will be in stuff with action, but like he's not like doing stunts and stuff. You know what I mean? But like he still brings in the numbers because he's doing like the heartwarming, like, family stuff.
I'm just picturing him like old man Tom Hanks, like hanging out of a helicopter, like
He's like, you wanna fucking ruin my lights? I don't know. I guess I mean, and then of course a lot of people know him from like Toy Story and stuff, but I don't know. I guess I can't really think of anything that I've watched of his, like, as far as like multiple times it was like, this is the shit. Like, I mean, obviously Forrest Gump back in the day was huge, but I don't know. And I watched Castaway like a couple times, maybe on TV or something, but I don't know. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Castaway it is.
What about you?
I'd say either Castaway or Apollo 13. I really like Apollo 13.
I've never seen that film.
It was so good.
I also hate space. No, Apollo 13. Yeah, I remember hearing about that film, but yeah, like never really watched it. Was that a Spielberg kind of deal?
Ron Howard directed that.
Him and Spielberg were doing stuff there for a while, weren't they? Like Tom Hanks and Spielberg, or no? Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing. I just can't remember anything that Tom Hanks has ever done as far as, because anytime I think of a movie that I really like, it's like, oh, well, he wasn't in that.
Well, you just thought of a bunch that he wasn't.
3. That's not a lot.
Okay.
Or is it? Maybe if you've never seen a film, that'd be a lot. Yeah. Or maybe if films are your foray. It's about quality, not quantity, though.
Hanks Week.
Hanks Week. Well, if you had picked a Tom Hanks film, this would have been Hanks Week. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not trying to shit on Tom Hanks. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head.
You're like Hanks for nothing.
Yeah. No hanky-panky. I will have to say there's like one of the ladies that like lives in the... Because you brought up like Perfect Strangers earlier. One of the ladies that like lives in this like hotel or apartment building that they're living in plays like Isabel. She's I think the only black lady in this show. From what I remember. But she plays Aunt Rachel that was on Family Matters.
Yeah, I recognize her. I was like, hey, it's Aunt Rachel.
I was like, wait a minute. But yeah, because that was part of the TGI. You know, if you want to watch something like that's probably one of the best sitcoms ever made, Family Matters, like, don't watch this dog shit.
But only in the later years when Stefan comes to around the scene.
And when they replaced fucking Harriet. It's like, what? Or maybe that was... I thought that they replaced her for a couple episodes or something. I know they did that for sure on Fresh Prince, where like Will Smith and like the mother weren't getting along, so like she went. It was like, okay. Now I feel bad. I just can't really remember anything Tom Hanks has done that, like, you know, they sound like Back to the Future or like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or like I don't know. Maybe next week we'll have to come back with my Tom Hanks.
You have to do some homework.
I'll just pick a Tom Hanks movie. Whew, boy. Tom Hanks. You know, what more can you say about him? He's a legend.
You're like, I loved him in that hilarious comedy Philadelphia. He was so funny in that.
I just can't believe I can't think of anything Tom Hanks has done.
You thought of a bunch.
Well, ones that like I would consider something I've watched a bunch. You know, it's like probably honestly out of all the ones that we talked about,
You're like bosom buddies.
Toy Story is probably the one I've seen the most as far as like the, you know, because a lot of his films are like longer than fucking horse piss. Like,
is Toy Story a sequel to Police Story?
They're messing around.
The Story Cinematic Universe, SC.
It's a story. It's a the MCU. It's a sequel to Cop Rock.
No.
Okay, I think we've milked all we can out of Tom Hanks.
Yep. He's
but
dry.
Disney hasn't. Okay, well, just as unceremoniously as we introduced in the last section. Neighbors.
So I'd like to actually introduce this one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So Neighbors is a documentary about what it's like to be neighbors with Dan Aykroyd in real life. They just shot footage of Dan Aykroyd in his natural habitat running around being crazy.
I honestly think that this movie is a documentary on what it's like to be slowly become insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand what the fuck I watched.
It's a weird movie, man.
And there's no explanation, so we
Yeah.
watched what we watched. I will have to say it stayed with me, so.
I wanted to pick it because I've never heard anyone talk about it ever.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a good reason for
until
that.
until you nominated, I'd never even heard of it, so. I mean, I'm not like half the movie aficionado that you are, so like whenever you bring up these films like this or Ishtar, I'm always like, and you're like, oh yeah, I've heard of this, and it's like, you know, I don't think I've brought up a film yet that you haven't heard of before, so, but that's always like
For better or worse.
yeah, that's always a good thing, for the most part. I'd rather watch a movie I hadn't seen than I guess watch one that I had seen that I hated. I was surprised. So this was actually based on a novel.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked to hear that. But
Maybe
then
the
again,
novel makes sense?
yeah, and it was directed by like the guy you said that did like Rocky and Karate Kid.
Yeah,
which
John G.
I
Avildsen.
Don't know what the fuck is going on here. Like,
Yeah, Rocky, Karate Kid,
yeah,
Neighbors.
and then it
One
was
of these
like
is not like the others.
John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd. Like, you have like the pieces for like
Coming right off of
one
Blues
of the
Brothers,
greatest
one of the
thing
best.
that's ever been made, and
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck happened? But don't get me wrong, this isn't like anywhere close to like the worst or like a horrible film.
I think there's lots of things
It's like
to like about it.
yeah, it's like I witnessed to like an alien or
It's
something.
a head scratcher.
Yeah, and I don't know. Or an alien, like, at least I would understand what it might have been, but it's like I witnessed like a thing open up and like it showed like a fucking different planet and like some ape was jerking off or something. And I'm like, you know, I don't understand what I just witnessed. So I don't know.
But yeah, Neighbors. So basically, it's a black comedy about some weird neighbors. But basically, the thing is John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, like right before they started filming, they agreed to swap roles and play against type. Mm-hmm. So John Belushi is the straight man, and Dan Aykroyd is the crazy lunatic.
I think it worked really well, honestly, for them swapping roles, because it was interesting to see.
Yes, I agree. It's an interesting experiment.
John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd played, like you said, the roles that they're not used to. So like John Belushi plays like this. He does a really good job. It's like so sad that he passed away.
This was his last movie.
He did, because
he died 4 months after this movie.
Jesus. But like, it was sad because you really see like, him playing his type here, that he really can act. He's not just the.
I agree. He does a really good job, but
he plays like the mild mannered like Clark Kent.
I think the character is so like mild mannered. It's almost like there's nothing, like he barely does anything in this movie, and it's like yes, it shows that John Belushi is very talented, but it also he doesn't get to do any of the things that
I think that's more so with like what the fuck this even is. I don't really understand. I still don't understand. Like,
well, this may explain a few things. Is everyone who made this movie was on drugs like hardcore this whole time. So this is like a drug
I don't even know if that still explains it, because I'm like, what I struggle with is it like this isn't. I wouldn't really say this is a movie. This is like if somebody filmed like a stage play almost, because it's
very artificial.
It's also like it's just scenes that are things happen, but they're not like connected. Like things are connected in a linear fashion of like it starts at night and kind of ends in the day, but that's the only thing that's connected for the most part in this film. It's almost like you're never sure what's real and what's not, and like what you
said. Yeah, you said before it's like it feels like you're going insane watching it.
Yeah, because it's like a cartoon almost or something, but you're not in on the.
I think it's like it follows the logic of a nightmare, where like things happen, but they don't, like you said, they don't connect, or like you don't understand why they're happening, and it's scary, and you don't. It's like what's happening,
but it's almost it's like so. Yeah, it's like certain parts of it are contained and some parts of it are so out there. It's none of it gets so out of control that it's like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, where like there are nightmare scenes, but like I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like it's like trying to describe like something out of like H.P. Lovecraft. It's like undescribable. I mean, it will try, but it's. I mean, it's just.
I mean, Dan Aykroyd is kind of like a Lovecraftian monster, like a Cthulhu.
He's got like these weird like contacts in that like Kane used to wear in wrestling. You remember that?
It's really scary.
Weird blue contacts that are almost like pale, and he's got like a gold tooth, and his hair is like blonde, and he wears like this. It's like a mix between a suede jacket and like a jean jacket, and it's got pockets that he keeps like cigarillos or cigars in. I can't really tell, and
like Black and Milds or something.
Yeah. And, like, at times he comes off as, like, this greaser guy that could totally fuck up John Belushi. But then in other scenes, he's, like, a sympathetic guy that's, like, sorry for what he did. It's such a weird...
Yeah, and also he turns into, like, a monster at some point.
Yeah.
He's like...
Yeah, he's like, fuck you.
I'm blowing out your ass.
Yeah.
So, like...
I think that was mainly just, like... Dan Aykroyd fucking around.
That was just like, they're like, Dan, just do what you do and we'll film you being a lunatic.
Just become Ray from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I don't think this is a great movie, but I think it's like interesting, and it does have quite a few laughs.
Like, I'm glad I watched it, but at the same time, it's one of those things where like, I just don't know. It's like
that's why I wanted you to watch it, so you could give me the answers, because I don't get it.
Well, that's the thing is like with Tusk, it's like when I watched it, as the longer I watched it, the angrier I got. Whereas this, it's like
the more confused you get.
Yeah, you were asking for answers, and it was like I don't know. It's like I don't even have. I'm so confused. I don't know if I even have an opinion on this. It's like
I feel the same way, man. And watching it again, I didn't help. I'm still like baffled by it.
Because like on one hand, I think it's awesome. I think it's like brilliant. There's a lot of stuff in it to like. Mm-hmm. On another hand, it's kind of boring at times, and it's also like, what the fuck is going on? But like the characters themselves, especially Dan Aykroyd and like John Belushi, I really like. They even have it like Dan Aykroyd's like. That's never determined if it's his girlfriend or his wife, or they're lying about it, or if it's like some lady he knows. She's like essentially like a Jessica Rabbit like temptress for like John Belushi, because he's like in a loveless marriage, and then his wife is kind of like there, and but she's like kind of really likes like Dan Aykroyd, and then their daughter comes home, and their daughter, it turns out to be like this punk rock chick that's like got kicked out of school. It's like, it's essentially, you're like, if you're watching like a National Lampoon's movie that doesn't have structure, it's like shit is happening. It's like if you're watching Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, if that had no resolution and there was no real story, it was just scenes that happen,
wacky antics.
Yeah, it'd be like, I don't know, and a lot of it is it's all from the perspective of Belushi's character, and he's always present when all this stuff's happening, but it's like things are happening in order that can't make sense. Like Belushi, like Aykroyd's going places and doing things that like can't be real as far as like how he got there.
Yeah.
And then also like in one scene he hates him, and the next scene he's like, oh, I was just kidding with you, even though the stuff that's being leveled at him, he's being leveled as he was gonna rape someone, and it's being he's like, oh, it was just a joke, and they all laugh at it, even his wife, and it's like,
it feels like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's like he was being. I was waiting for it to be like an anger management where like you find out that like Jack Nicholson was like actually hired by like Adam Sandler's wife to like make him kind of like become more like assertive, and I thought that's what was going to be here, where he was like, I love you, but you literally are just a pushover and whatever. And it's like, but no, it's just at the end of the film, what happens, and you're just like left to wonder, is this even what happened? Like,
yeah, I'm like thinking back, it started out strong and I was taking notes, and then like as it went on, I kind of just like became stoned, even though like I don't even remember like until the very ending some stuff, because I was just like,
yeah,
I was like, my brain turned into mush.
Yeah, this was one where I took some notes, but I also kind of just went along for the ride, and then kind of
no, I think we have similar take on this movie, sounds like.
Yeah, so there's like a farty trombone, and then it goes into alien music at the very beginning of this movie, and that's when I kind of wondered what the fuck is going on right off the bat. Yeah, and then it's just like it goes into Ed Wood, and I'm like,
it'd be an interesting experiment to like, because the score is outrageous in this movie. It's basically like a Looney Tunes style score.
Yeah, and I wondered what the fuck was going on for the long. I put, dude, the soundtrack is out of control, high tension for no reason, and then like, and then I put, thank God she turned off the cartoon music. But then for no reason, it just comes back, and it's kind of prevalent a bunch through the movie. It's very weird. It's like there's no. I think the biggest thing too is there's no logic to this film, because like in one scene something will be completely like, oh, it's fucking destroyed, it's wrong, it's and then the next scene it's fine, like it never happened, and it's like it's almost like this is the true multiverse of madness that Marvel wanted to do. And instead of like Doctor Strange, it's fucking what's his face, Belushi, and each scene he's shifting to a different universe.
Earl Keys,
because it's like, you know what I mean, because it's like, what is going on? Like,
I was thinking it would be an interesting experiment to like change the score and make like an ominous like ambient score.
Dude, that would be
this would become a horror movie.
Yeah,
like it could easily become a horror
especially
movie.
at times when he's like lurking around and shit, and it's like, what is going on? Good God, like I just don't even like. So yeah, there's this. What's her name at the beginning says, you wouldn't want me to pull down your pants and spank your buns now, would you?
Spank your little buns.
And I was like,
so it's Cathy Moriarty.
Good God.
She's like the vamp in this movie, like the neighbor wife.
She reminded me of like what's her face from the movie with Johnny Pants and the two ladies that were like in love.
Oh, Bound.
Yeah, bam. Where like what's her face plays like a femme fatale.
Yeah. I like her in this, but I always think of her she's the lead in Raging Bull. And she's unforgettable in that movie.
Unforgettable. Yeah, for sure.
She's pretty effective in this one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I cracked up at that line where I was like, spank your little buns.
Yeah. I was like, because she shows up first and is like tempting, Belushi, and then she disappears and like fucking Dan Aykroyd shows up as Vic, which is like the perfect name for that character. It's like, and he's just like plays him and is like, hey, I need money, I'll go out and get food for us and stuff, and he like tricks him into giving him money, and he's just like, $30? Where have you been for 4 people? And I was just like, dude, this is so like, street Dan Aykroyd talk. Like, this is just perfect. You know what I mean?
He's great in this.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's very few people that could do like what he does in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like
it's another
one of the
reason why I
craziest
love Dan
characters.
Aykroyd so much.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. Which I'm so jealous you got to actually like meet him. When you
Yeah,
met
man.
him. Did you get to actually say anything to him? Or
I'm embarrassed to even say this, but like, and I hadn't seen Neighbors at the time, but I told him I loved him in Blues Brothers. Like, what are you gonna say? And he was like, "Thanks."
He's like, bullshit.
I didn't know
hate
what to
that
say.
movie. You should have told him you loved him in Blues Brothers 2000. You're like, Grandpa always gave me good advice.
I'm like, call me when it's Blues Brothers 3000.
Yeah, with Andre 3000.
With Andre.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, I got to shake his hand and get my picture taken with him.
I've seen that picture. He's like wearing like sunglasses and stuff, right?
Yeah, and he was an hour late to his own appearance because he was eating Montgomery Inn and taking forever. Like,
good old Dan.
he was like, screw him. I'll have another rack of ribs, please.
For the longest time, I had a message that I had saved on my phone when the Ghostbusters game came out. He personally recorded a fucking message that they played at GameStop for everybody that pre-ordered that game. The Ghostbusters game was like, "Hello, paranormal enthusiasts," and I was like, "This is the greatest thing." You know, this is Ray Stantz. I want to let you know that the Ghostbusters game is coming out.
That's awesome.
Which that game is fucking awesome if you haven't played it. The one for like 360, I think they remade it on PlayStation and all that crap. But yeah, Dan Aykroyd. It's a shame he doesn't do like conventions and stuff. I feel like he would be a huge draw.
Does vodka conventions.
He's like Broken Skull Ranch, or not Broken Skull. That's Stone Cold. He's kind of the first time though with Dan Aykroyd, I kind of was like laughing a little bit at him and not with him, is when he was like, "There are thousands of alien species that will never contact us," and I was just like, "Why are they filming this documentary in a fucking like Hotel 5?" It's like, okay. But anyway,
that message thing reminded me of the Snakes on a Plane message. Remember that? You could personalize a voicemail from Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
I sent you one. I was like, "Hello, Michael.
Yeah.
Come see my new movie, Snakes on a Plane."
Some random white dude saying that part. He's like, "Hey, Michael." Like, he's like, "He's too evil to let him live." I'm like, holy shit.
So Roger Ebert did a review of this movie. Take a guess.
I don't know, honestly. I mean, well, no, I bet he did like it.
He liked it.
Did he?
He gave it 3 stars.
Huh. You know, it's funny. My first instinct was to say he did like it, but I was like, nah, there's no way.
He's always
You never know with Roger, with
throwing
Ebert
you
and Siskel. They're all over the place. But it's like anybody, you know. What did he say? Anything specific?
I think he liked how they played against type.
Yeah. Also, he's ripping up our show now, huh?
The movie slides easily from its opening slices of life into a suburban nightmare. Yeah, it's not the best review, but the first hour of Neighbors is probably more fun than the second.
There you have it.
After a while, the bizarre logic of the movie becomes more predictable. But Neighbors is a truly interesting comedy, an offbeat experiment in hallucinatory black humor. It grows on you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would, like, disagree with anything he said. It was just kind of like, except for I don't know if I would ever, like, he was like, the absurd becomes predictable, but I mean...
I disagree with that.
Yeah,
I had no idea what was happening at any given time or what was going to happen.
Yeah, there's, because, like, there's weird scenes, like, his wife is feeding a dog steak, and, like, earlier in the day, earlier in the night, she said they didn't have anything but waffles.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's just little things like that where, like, everybody has either they're lying or they're not lying, and, like, they're just joking with them, but is it a joke? Or, you know, it's like, it's just stuff like that where it's just like, so many truths are twisted that, like, you don't know what the real truth is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what it is for like Belushi. Like he has no clue what is going on. Like his life was fine and totally normal before these people showed up, and then after they showed up, it's like, you know, it completely changes him.
Yep.
Like completely, because you know towards the end of this film, he's like becomes just John Belushi.
And he throws his life away.
Yeah. He throws away the mundane life he had.
One thing I really like about this movie is like the image of the two houses with the power, tower in the background. It's very like striking.
The Tower of Power.
Tower.
Too sweet to be sour.
It looks awesome, dude.
It's
like
also like it's a very made like you said like fake.
Yeah.
But it's as far as like where like the set of like the two houses, and like their house is like white and it's got like a nice lawn, and it's like the other one, it's like it's honestly like not a bad looking house, but like the grass around it is like being taken over by swampland. So it's like it's definitely not like the worst looking house. It actually looks pretty nice. It's just it's kind of like if you're living right next to like the Munsters or the Addams Family kind of. But it's like literally it's this one drive that is a circle that I guess they intended to like make more houses, but they never did. But it's literally just these two houses. We talked about the rape accusation, and she says, "I wasn't born with your hand in my bush," and
she also said he tried to pork me.
Yeah.
Which that I laughed out loud at. Like I didn't,
because you don't hear that ever. That was definitely something that people said back in the day more.
But you'd expect like a 12-year-old boy to say
but
that.
It's also
now,
like pork was like
woman.
they would say that back in the day, but it's like how the fuck did somebody come up with that? Like pork, like what? I guess they were equating that to like pigs. Like what? Don't get it. But it's funny. That's why I don't know. I laughed too. I was like, huh. So we got a dog peeing on the power tower, and he gets shocked, and he's like, fine. That's one of the reasons why I just like this is everything that I would ever say about this is like because that happens, and then a raven lands on the tower and dies due to the shock. So it's like, like just in that one scene, how stupid that is. You know, it's whatever. It's not a big deal. It's not a complaint. This is just like. I'm not. These notes are more examples than anything of like, you know, I'm trying to justify like why. I don't know. It's like someone's like, dude, you gotta like give us evidence that you saw like a UFO, and it's like I'm trying as hard as I can, but like no matter what I do, I can't. There's nothing I can do.
You feel like you've been abducted by this movie.
I don't have the fucking like photos. I don't have like. The aliens aren't here to, like, say anything for themselves. You know, it's like... Oh, God. Like, there's, like, swamp antics with quicksand. Vic dies, but then he comes back. Like, he appears inside the house where he was going to take a shower. And it's, like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, continually makes me think, like, this is just... They were like, let's not make a movie that makes any sense. Let's just make, like, funny scenes that kind of go back to back. And that's kind of what this movie is, I think. It's not like... They weren't sitting there like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How would he get out of the quicksand? And how would he teleport to the house faster than Belushi? It's like, they just did it. If they had only done that for, like, one scene, it would have been like, okay, this is kind of stupid. Like, I probably would have made a note about it and ranted about it. But, like... Since it's the whole movie, I guess I can't really say anything other than... I mean, we've been saying stuff about it, but, like, I can't really say, like, it was a fuck-up. I mean, I could just say, like, you know, that's what the movie is. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh,
yeah. Edible daughter panties. And he's like, you want some? You want banana panties of your daughters or something? And I was just like... Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm trying not to, like... Dude, what the fuck?
It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, and then he punches him, and he doesn't, like, come back at him, and he's like, Dan Aykroyd's like, that's fair, you know, and I'm like, so I guess he knew that he was going too far, or... Yeah, I don't know. it's hard. That's the biggest thing is like it's hard to talk about this movie. I mean, we've been talking about it, but it's literally you're just going in circles because
You're spiraling down a toilet.
right? Because on one hand, you could say he knew what he was doing. He was pushing Dan Aykroyd, or he was pushing Belushi. He got punched, and it's just like, okay, I knew what I was doing. That was fucked up. The other one is like he didn't know. He was oblivious. They meant to do it that way, and then he just said, okay, I'm sorry, that kind of a thing. Either way, it's like you come to the same conclusion that like you can't really say either way because nothing in this movie is okay and nothing in this movie is all right. Like it's all you could see it from both. I've never seen a film that's more literally down the middle as far as like one way or the other. You could say this movie totally fucking sucks, and you could say this movie's totally awesome. And like I don't know if I could ever argue either point. You know what I mean? Like
I think that means there's something to it.
well, exactly, but it's just so shocking.
This kind of reminded me of that movie that came out a few years ago, Mother, with Jennifer Lawrence. Because it's kind of a similar thing where it's like a nightmare logic where more and more people keep coming into her house.
Right.
And she can't stop it or make them leave until by the end it's like a full-blown riot. And basically it doesn't really make sense, but it's like an allegory.
It's just kind of like, a bunch of stuff is happening. And
like how humans are like disgracing the Mother Nature.
The disgraceful house.
The disgraceful Belushi.
The ghoulish Belushi.
But I like the look of the house. It's like very like moody and like dark, and like there's wood paneling everywhere, and it's like reminds you of the 80s.
Yeah. It's weird because throughout this entire film, like Belushi is like totally like, okay, I'm just I'm playing it straight and stuff, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna cheat on my wife with this like Ramona lady, and then like like they were like down under the cut where maybe that was later in the scene. There's a thing later on where they're in his bedroom and he like she goes like I guess down on him maybe under the covers, and he's just like, and then some shit happens, and it's one of those things where they specifically put her under there and you never see her again, so you really don't even know if anything happened or not, or if he's just having a daydream about it. You know what I mean? It's like that's the whole thing about this movie. Every single scene you can argue that he like daydreamed everything or all this was real. And it's like it's so weird. So there's something in this movie out of all the ridiculous stuff I've never seen in a film before. A double nut shot. They both go to like kick each other. Great. He goes to kick him, and they both rack themselves on the other person's knee, which I've never seen that before. I don't even think I've seen that in wrestling before, which is very interesting. I'm sure it's happened, but like I was like, what the fuck? They're both like, oh, at the same time.
You're like, once is good enough, but twice is nice.
Yeah. They sell it like champs.
Yeah.
Great acting. Randomly, his car says Pimp Wagon on it. And then it's like, so this happens, and then later on, you see Aykroyd cleaning it off, and he's like, somebody really fucked up your car, and it's like, so is this guy an asshole and he did that and then cleaned it off? Or did someone really do that, like maybe like the mechanic guy, and he's cleaning it off because he's a good guy? It's like, I can't.
You'll never know.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a breakfast for you. Blueberry pancakes with little baby sausages. What the fuck are little baby sausages? Have you heard of that before?
Like a small sausage?
Yeah, yeah.
If you cut a sausage into little parts, it becomes a little baby sausage.
Oh, speaking of food, earlier, when we were talking about how he like fucked him over, that's another scene where you're like, you feel like you're going crazy because you're ready to like totally point the finger and be like, we saw your ass, you took the money, you didn't go get the food, you went to your house and made food.
I love that spaghetti making scene.
But then he makes food, and he like he possibly makes his own homemade sauce, and it's like, if that's the case, that's probably worth more than the money, because it's like, it was nice of him to do it, but if not, he like fucked him over and just used some like shitty ingredients. But I agree, that scene is awesome because he's also wearing like a completely different like outfit for it.
He's just maniacally cooking spaghetti
Yeah.
by himself, like going crazy.
And it's like the music he's playing is so loud that like how would he not think that somebody would
he's
find
not
out
trying to
about
hide it
Yeah.
at all.
But that's another scene where it's like, man, you could argue either way, and it's like, I don't know, it's out of control.
Blow it out your ass, Wim.
Don't call me Cyborg, you asshole. Fuck you. So I guess that's the scene where he gets locked in the basement and he wants to call this random dude for a phone number, and Dan Aykroyd gets on the line as well with him, and he starts talking like a fucking demon or something, and it's like ridiculous. What? That I'm just like not saying anything.
You're gonna have nightmares tonight. Be like, Vic, what did you do to me?
Well,
Vic,
the funny
why?
thing is, after I watched this film, I just kept thinking about it, and I was just like, and now that we're talking about it again, it's kind of just like, I don't know. Do you fool around? He's like, yeah. Like, okay. So he's already been like, fuck it, I'm just gonna cheat on my wife or whatever. And oh yeah, when she was like under the covers, there's like this weird song playing that says "Come, come," and I was
That
like,
was part of the score.
I was just like, huh?
they're like chanting.
Yeah, it's like weird. And then Vic's house burns down because he like drives a fucking plane into it or some shit. He's using like a, what's it called, like a little
Remote controlled plane.
Yeah, and like and then they're like, oh, you guys must have had fucking insurance, right? And he's like, no, fucking. This is another thing. It's like, did he make this part up or what? Because he's talking about how like he looked after this old lady and she loved him so much that like he essentially is like, well, nobody would care if like I just took her house. So it's the closest you get to some sort of backstory for these characters, and you don't even get it for the other lady because at some point he says, she's not my old lady, I don't give a shit what you do. So it's almost like, was she like the nurse that worked there and they just kind of teamed up? Yeah. I see you looking at something there. What's that, sir?
I just made a note about Kathryn Walker as Enid. Like,
she's the wife of
John Belushi's
Yeah,
wife.
Belushi. Yeah.
She doesn't really do a whole lot in this movie.
I think she just doesn't really have like a
her
big
character.
part. Yeah. But I think
There's a
that
little more to
she
it.
plays like a good, like, she makes you feel like sympathetic to be like, yeah, go ahead and get with this other chick, because she plays like,
She plays both sides.
Yeah.
Or plays it both ways.
right.
basically.
Well, she plays like this character that like is super like cold to him and was just like, you know, doesn't really seem like she loves him anymore and stuff. And he's just kind of like the whole time like, and it's like she's always smoking, like chain smoking and stuff. And like at the end of the movie, she like runs off with this like Native American dude, and it's like reminds me of King of the Hill or whatever, like the neighbor lady that would always go off with like John Redcorn. It's like, but like he gets ready for sex, and when he's doing that, they're like playing Bee Gees, and I was just like, Bee Gees in the 80s.
Yep. Good stuff.
The
Another huge laugh I had was at one point, like, Dan Aykroyd spits, and there's a spittoon sound. I was like, ba-ding! I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. Like, obviously, we talked about the whole time, but a lot of weird stuff in this. It doesn't make sense, but it's like one of those things that, like, it's like this. It's like the score. It's not. It's put in to just because they were like, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's almost like if we made a film and we were like, we're not trying to make like. Because they're not.
It's
playing,
like they made the movie
yeah.
and someone said, "Oh, this is a disaster. Well, if we put a Looney Tunes score over it, maybe
Yeah.
it'll be funny."
But it's like the way that it was acted was also like kind of like played that way too. So it's either like a deliberate piece of genius or like an accidental piece of dog shit. Like, I don't understand. Because there's man, when he's like signs over his car to Aykroyd. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry for what I put you through. And it's like, huh? It's like Belushi has become like indoctrinated by this guy essentially at this point. But
Yeah.
because he has 0 friends. His wife hates him. You know, it's like his family is just like, you're wrong on every account. So he's like latches on to like this guy that's kind of treated him okay, I guess. I mean, like, he treated him like shit, but he's also like the only male friend he's had. And then like this chick that like essentially Vic is like, yeah, go ahead and get with this lady. I don't like her. She's not my like, wife or girlfriend or anything.
So I wasn't a big fan of this ending.
It's such a weird.
Well, I think
I don't really
they may have been trying to make a statement about like, oh, suburban life is terrible, but I don't agree with that. Nor do I. Does this movie earn that? I don't think it needed the insane ending. It just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but
I think it honestly fits with how stupid the rest of the film is. I do think
if it wasn't for that ending, I would think, like you said, this movie is secretly maybe the most genius comedy ever made. But
I don't think the ending really has anything to do with the rest of the film. But like the rest of the film is so ridiculous. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, so like at the end of this film, like the daughter leaves with the son of the asshole tow truck guy that he's had like a beef with this whole night. The wife leaves with a Native American dude, and then I don't know if you got this, but as he's still in his house, Dan Aykroyd does like a commercial voiceover for Spruce Hill.
I didn't catch that until I read the trivia about it. That's pretty funny.
I was like, oh, that's got to be him, right? So essentially at the end of this film, he's like, what, they come back because they've left at this point, and they come back, and he's like, well, what are you guys doing back here? And they're like, they're essentially like, I guess he's like, why don't you decide to stay with us or whatever? And he's like, no, you come with us. And it's like, at this point it becomes even more ridiculous because like, I mean, I don't know about that, but now that I think about it, but it's like, essentially what happens is he gets in a car with them and they all leave after he's set his house on fire, and they all just like leave, and like John Belushi becomes John Belushi, and it like laughs like a crazy man next to like Dan Aykroyd, and it's essentially he's going off with like his best friend and his like new girlfriend after he like burned down his house. But it's like almost like, was that all in his mind too? Like, it's like the whole thing is just so, from beginning to end, this film is like a fucking, you don't know what even happened. Like, you don't even know if this happened or if this was all like in his head, because it's so over the top, and there's no definitive explanation for anything. That it's just, the whole thing's like crazy. I mean, they should have just been like, that's all, folks, at the end.
Yeah.
And it would have made more sense. Like, oh, this is a fucking joke. But it's played like for, I mean, I guess for straightness or I don't know. Like, Belushi was giddy. He's living his life. Guess that's a bad phrase to say. But, movie's a freaking cartoon. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's one of those things where like the movie just ends. I mean, obviously they have like a big, like you said, like a big thing where they burn the house down and stuff. But it's not like really, it's celebrated, but it's not like they stand there and they're like, yeah, it's like they just drive off, and then it's just like black screen credits. It's like how the movie starts. It's like black screen credits. It's like, that's it. Like, I don't know. It's just not that wasn't like big, but it's also like, I don't even know what else. Like, what were they gonna do at the end of this film? It's like this film was just like a constant like turd coming out of somebody's ass. You know what I mean? It was just, it wasn't ending.
I was with you until that metaphor.
How does that not make sense though?
I don't know. Eventually it does end.
Yeah. But it just makes no sense for why it ends. Like, you would think that it would never end because it's just been, literally, it's just scene after scene of the absurd. I don't know, man. How would you have made the end happen?
I don't know.
I just think.
I don't know.
The problem is,
I just thought that they were maybe trying to make a statement, which
No, I
this
don't
movie
think
did
so
not
at
earn.
all.
I could be wrong.
yeah, I don't think so at all. But only because
Like, live your life, burn everything down, be insane. That's the way to be. I don't know.
yeah, I usually don't read too much into stuff like this, but at the same time, like, we just spent like whatever it is, however long this is, like talking about the movie could be, you know, like every scene could be this way or that, like, but at the same time, that's the biggest problem with this film, and probably the greatest thing it has going for it is like you don't really know what the fuck is happening. Like, you don't know what actually happened in this film. Not like you're watching it, you don't know what happened. You watch it and you don't know.
I watched it and I don't know what happened.
Well, you saw it and you know what happened. Like, you saw that John Belushi did this, he did this, he did this. But you don't know if fucking any of that actually happened because none of it's like definitively shown, and like you never really get any backstory for like Vic. I mean, you don't even really know if the shit that he told you is right because every other scene is contradicted by like something else that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the film is like essentially built on like quicksand, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if I've ever been like more unsure of a fucking film that we've ever watched.
I think that's a sign of that there's something to it, man.
of a film that was put on film.
I'd rather watch this than like, you know, First Night, you know, something that I instantly forgot about the second it was over.
What was it?
First Night? Isn't that the one we watched with Heath Ledger? Oh, A Knight's Tale.
I was like,
I couldn't even remember the title.
First Night.
But yeah, that's.
I think First Night's like one of those like kids movies where like he goes back in time. or no, that's a kid in King Arthur's Court.
Kid in King Arthur's Court.
First Night. Dude, we need to make a movie about like the president going back in time and becoming like a medieval knight. Call it First Night. Actually, wait, why would we call it First? That makes no sense.
He's the first knight, but only because he's president. What about Black Knight with Martin Lawrence?
Dude.
That was a good one.
Do you think we'll ever see that movie on the podcast?
No.
I'm like,
You're too busy thinking about Neighbors.
Joke's on you. I'm never picking it. Oh, man. So how did you even like hear about this fucking film?
I don't know.
think we even talked about this. Like,
I don't know.
You don't remember like when you first heard of it, or?
I don't remember.
Damn, dude. It was that.
It was just like, holy
Yeah.
crap! I love Blues Brothers, and they
Yeah.
made another movie like right after that together. Well, I gotta see that.
It was like something you put on your list though for like to
Yeah, at some
eventually
point.
pick, yeah.
Yeah. It's like Blues Brothers is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And Neighbors is my favorite.
I just think it's funny that you like had it on a list and then just randomly picked it this week. I don't know why, because it's just so out of control.
I need help. I needed another opinion.
I need help.
To tell me why this movie's so weird.
I feel like I talked a lot this episode, and I think it's mainly because I was trying to go through therapy.
I think most of the things like that you mentioned are the strengths of this movie. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it would just be like a standard movie, which
Right.
this is not.
Well, that's the thing, is if it wasn't so out of control with just not like not only the things that happened, but like not really knowing one way or the other, like if something that happened is true or not, like it wouldn't really be worth watching.
Yep.
It would
That's
just
what
be
gives it
like
its
another
strength.
like who gives a shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think talking through it makes me appreciate this movie more. I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece by any means,
Yeah.
but I think you should. It's definitely like an interesting movie to watch and
Yeah.
think about.
Would you recommend
had some
people to
laughs.
watch this?
Oh yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
big time. It's funny and weird and dark and scary, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's like we're making it seem like it's like the weirdest thing you've ever seen. It's probably not going to be like the weirdest thing you've ever seen or like the scariest, but it's like
It gets under your skin.
it's probably like the most, I wouldn't even say unnerving, because it's not like it's like horrifying or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not scary to watch, but it's just kind of like usually when you watch something, like, you know where you stand and you know where the characters are, like, stand in the film. But, like, this is like I said, this is like if a character was phasing through different dimensions because...
Or losing his mind.
Right. Which, like, I mean, you could totally say that this movie is John Belushi slowly going insane, and that if it had been put as that, it probably would be one of the greatest films ever made, because fucking this film is so...
Well, you can put it that way in your own mind.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like doing that. Because then I'll go insane.
Too late. I think we both lost our minds talking about Neighbors.
But you know what I mean? There are certain films like The Thing and other films like that that are like, it's like a classic all-time great movie for what it is because of what it establishes. And I feel like the strength and also like weakness of this film is that it doesn't define certain things, but the strength and weakness is also that it either does or doesn't. So if like certain things had been defined as far as like, you know, say they were like, this movie's about him, like at the end you find out he's been in a fucking mental hospital the whole time or something. Would that have made it better or worse?
Worse. Way worse.
But you
it's
know,
better
who knows?
than you don't know.
It could have been way better.
I don't know.
But that's the thing is like, it could have been way better or it could have been way worse. You know, anything about this film could have been different. It could have been like the best movie ever or it could have been the worst movie ever. It's just weird because they put just the right amount of like stuff in this film to make it like, I don't know, weird. I don't know. It's like, I don't know what to say anymore.
We should have watched Neighbors from 2014 starring Seth Rogen.
Are you talking about Seth Rogen, mini-me? Fucking... What do you think about Seth Rogen? I think he's a fine dude. What?
Seth Rogen. He's a fine dude.
I don't have anything against him. I just...
Michael.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of good movies.
Yeah. He's making that
He's a
Turtles
fine dude.
movie, so I'm hyped about that, I guess.
He was in The Fablemans. No more Fable.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I saw the trailer part where he's just like, I can't wait to see what you do, or something. What is he saying?
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's like...
I can't wait to see what you do.
Why does he still having to do bit parts like that? He's been in fucking Hollywood for 1,000 years. He's not like fucking...
He was the lead in Neighbors.
Josh Gad, for fuck's sake. It's like, this guy's actually like done shit with his life.
Do you think that Dan Aykroyd should make Neighbors 2000 with Jim Belushi?
Only if they bring in Dan, what's his name? I was gonna say
John Goodman?
Yeah, John Goodman.
Dude. Great movie.
Oh my god.
Genius.
Should be Neighbors 3000.
With
There'll be
Andre.
3 of them. The only thing I remember about Blues Brothers 2000 is like the part where they go to like, I think like this witch doctor lady and they have like this jazz off or some shit or blues off.
They become
and I'm
zombies.
like, what the fuck is going on in this film, man?
That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just remember like watching it, but I don't remember much other than I like Dan Aykroyd and I like what's his name? Fucking John Goodman. But I don't really know. Was Jim Belushi in that?
Yeah.
Why? I don't hate Jim Belushi. I'm not trying to shit on him, but like, I don't know.
He's not a fine dude.
I mean, I guess the worst thing you can say about Jim Belushi is that he was not John Belushi, which is kind of sad to be like someone's brother and like it'd be like if you were Kurt Cobain's brother. It's like
He was great in Red Heat with Arnold. Buddy Cops.
he was in what was it, Real Men?
Yeah, Real Men.
What else has he been in that like I don't know? I'm trying to think.
I think of him from Red Heat mainly because I like.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
He was in a movie called The Principal, where
Yeah.
like he comes in as the new principal to
Scary
like kick ass,
bastard,
and he
yeah.
like kills kids in it.
There was a part where like wasn't he in a movie with like a dog or something?
Yeah, K-9.
Oh,
I never saw that one.
Everybody, oh dude, speaking of which, there we go. There's a Tom Hanks movie, Turner and Hooch, right?
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
saw that one either.
Oh, another movie that actually I should say Dragnet.
Yeah,
With,
that's pretty funny.
Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. I actually liked that movie. I almost picked it for next week. So it would bridge the gap.
Too much Aykroyd,
Too much Aykroyd.
not enough Hanks.
I think that movie's about 50-50 on both, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know. I think we've fucking said everything we can say about this. Do you have anything else to say about it? I don't know.
I want to know your
I
rating.
feel like oh shit, sorry. I don't know, man. Like
You have to choose.
yeah. I'm just maybe I don't know.
It's very
So,
important.
Before
You get this right. Don't blow it. It's going on your permanent record.
The winner of this contest will get a permanent boner. Yeah, I don't know. I originally wrote down 7.95, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
But
So you liked it.
yeah, I don't know. That's the thing is I didn't hate it. I didn't.
Give it to Mikey. He likes it.
I don't love it. I didn't think it was like a 9.9 situation, but you know what I mean? Like talking through it again, there were parts where I got pissed off, and then there were parts where I was like, this movie was awesome. So it's like, I guess if I'm being real with myself, like I'd have to give it like a 5, like in the right if it was right down the middle, but that feels too low. You know what I mean? Like I feel like this film deserves more for also for the performance of Dan Aykroyd and like Belushi. Like just watching the film, I don't know. I've already said enough. Fucking whatever. 7.95. I can't analyze this film like Fraud or whatever the fuck his name is for like 10 years. I got better.
He's a
things to do with
Sigmund
my
Fraud.
life. Cigar is just a cigar.
A neighbor is just a neighbor.
A buddy's just a buddy. Actually, fuck that. Buddies aren't just buddies. They're family.
When you're here, you're family.
When you're here, you're buddies. What about you? Since this is Matt week.
I'm going 7.95.
Nice. Oh yeah, that's the Matt standard, the gold standard. I don't know. It's like I said, anything lower than that to me would feel like an insult because even though don't plan on watching this film again, like for a while, if ever, it deserves to be seen and talked
Yeah,
about.
that's why I wanted to pick it, honestly, because like
It's like
I wish
the
more people would see
opposite
it.
of Ishtar. It's like a movie that like it's hard for me to explain, but it's hard for me to explain like why it's.
this chart just
Yeah.
straight up sucks.
But it's like it had that same feel to it, where it's like, what the fuck happened here? This is like what happened here in like slightly occurred better. Well, not slightly above middling, I guess I should say. But I think it's because of what happened with the way the characters were played so out of control. I think this is like the most I've ever talked in an episode.
You've got to work it out for yourself.
I guess. You were just over there like, oh yes. Like, how many did you have like not even a page of notes on this?
I took about my normal
Yeah.
amount,
How much is that? Normally you take
like a half of one of these pages. But I usually just take 1 or 2
Yeah.
word notes.
And then you just kind of play off. It seems like what I do and stuff. Sounds good. Sounds good. Guess this is a part of the episode where I reveal what's under
next?
well under my cloak. Oh shit! I don't want to completely reveal this. I want to let you guess. Okay. So Weird Watches next week. I'll give you first hint. Stars Richard Dean Anderson and John DeLacy from,
Really?
yeah. And it's from the producer of Deep Space Nine.
And it's not MacGyver?
No,
I don't know what else he was in. And I don't know what else
John DeLacy.
Q was in
Yeah.
besides Breaking Bad and Star Trek.
He was in hell.
I was in hell when I was watching Picard.
That's where it'll go. Well, I don't feel bad. I'd never heard of this till the other day. It's called Legend.
Legend.
All
right. Never heard of this.
It's on YouTube. You have to like look up the year too, because when I looked it up, it was like "fuck you, idiot."
Yeah.
And then for the feature presentation, it's okay. So like that was a Western. It's like a Western show.
Okay.
Kind of along the lines of Briscoe County Jr., where like a guy, Richard Dean Anderson plays like
he's like,
yeah, he plays a character that writes about a hero and then ends up just doing the stuff that he writes.
Okay.
And John Delancey plays like his scientist friend that comes up with all these gadgets for him. So it's like Briscoe County Jr. with like
cool.
And then the feature presentation is a Western starring Clint Eastwood from 1964.
Oh. 64, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, it's his first, not the good, bad, and the ugly, but the first one of that series.
A fistful of dollars.
Yeah, nice.
So,
Cool
hopefully a Legend doesn't suck wiener. Because I'm in the mood for some, Western goodness, and hopefully, that doesn't...
Can't go wrong with Clint.
Yeah, that one, I'm not worried about. It's like the Legend idea. It's like, Richard Dean Anderson and fucking Q. That sounds fucking awesome, but
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart and John Delancey sound awesome together, but except for in Picard, it's like
Q, I have become too old for your pranks. Just
like,
let me die.
He's like, I've had enough of your shit, and then he fucking slaps him, and he's like, you're under the assumption that I give a fuck about you anymore, Picard. He's like, you hit me, and I'm like, who the fuck is writing this? Like, Q is fucking punching people? Like, what?
It's now your daddy's Star Trek.
Yeah. Fucking
Like
God.
rides away on a skateboard.
Essentially, God is fucking coming down just to talk to one guy and punching him in the face, but not killing him for it. It's like... Anyway. Good grief.
All I can say is,
gravy.
Nice picks.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I guess that's everything for this week. This was Matt Week. Are you excited how things turned out for the Buddy?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, man. It was fun to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna go home and be like super happy, just because I feel like I fucking like I'm so wound tight right now. I don't know why. Like, the more we talked, it was like a rubber band ball was like fucking being created in my body. And I think like slowly you were going insane because you were laughing at everything I said. Because I've never been funny until now, folks.
Yeah. First time you made me laugh.
I know. Every other time was you were like. Speaking of which, I was gonna say I had a note about Bosom Buddies that said that like I didn't laugh once in this.
Oh, I didn't laugh once.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I had a note and I was like, fuck
stone,
this.
like unfunny,
Yeah.
like it was not good.
I was getting pretty pissed, honestly, at certain points, but I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm gonna get pissed. So fuck it. What the fuck is that?
A neighbor.
Guess that's the end of the episode, guys.
Bye.